All right, what a wonderful week four. And a lot of people are either at 1-3 or 2-2, and they have questions on their minds. Do I buy a certain player? Do I sell this player on my team, or should I hold this player? And we are here to figure that out and help you guys get through that. So let's discuss some of the hotter players this season. The Dolphins running backs, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is a running back two, and Devon Achane is a running back four. So, Corona, do you think this is sustainable? Are these two backs, are you buying them or selling them or holding?
I think if you have Raheem Mostert, you sell. And the only reason I'm saying this is I believe he's 31 years old and he's had a history of injury. That Miami offense is explosive, and I feel like it's explosive enough for just Devon Achane. So if you can get value for Raheem Mostert, say if you're struggling at receiver, you can get some pretty good pieces for Raheem Mostert right then and there. So I think it's a pretty clear selling to me.
Yeah, I do think that this is probably the peak that it's going to be for the Dolphins running backs. A-Chain is someone who's very interesting. Maybe I'd hold A-Chain, see his usage for the next couple of weeks, especially in a split backfield with Mostert. It can only, be so well for a split backfield, go so well. So that is a concern. I think ideal world, one of them gets injured, the other one becomes top tier running back, top three running back material potentially. But I would say hold with A-Chain and sell Mostert as well.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Moving on, Adam Thielen, manager FanDuel. What's your opinion on Thielen?
This one's a tough one. A lot of people also wrote him off. Older wide receiver coming over from Minnesota this year. Rookie quarterback, Bryce Young. What's going to be the situation? New head coach. Um, I personally, right now, would hold on Thielen. I like the way he's playing a lot. He's a top 10 wide receiver in PPR. I think he's averaging somewhere around 17 and change, 17 and a half points right now in PPR, which is fantastic. And he's doing it on a consistent basis. He's averaging at least 15 to 18 points for 3 out of the last 4 weeks. The only week he didn't average that was week one. And we all know week one, anything can really happen. Offenses are still getting into their groove. And in the top 70 wide receivers from Carolina, there's only two, Adam Thielen and one other wide receiver. I think Terrence Marshall Jr., if I'm not mistaken. So it really shows the lack of talent that the Carolina offense also has. So I'd hold on Thielen right now. I really like what he's producing.
Yeah. That is a tough one, and only because he, again, I'm bringing up age, but it is an important matter. He is 33 years old with a rookie quarterback, um, but he's getting the targets, and targets is a lot to ask for these days. If he's getting that volume there, then I agree he could be a hold, but I think it's also a fringe sell, in my opinion. I think you can get a upgrade if you stack someone else with Adam Thielen. You can get a stack to get another receiver, maybe for that long term output. If you're sitting at like 3-1 right now, so I would say hold if you're around that 1-3 area, 2-2 ish. If you're 3-1, try to go for a long term option.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thielen is currently the wide receiver 10, so you can certainly get a decent amount of value for him. However, it's going to be interesting to see if he can sustain that. Moving on, David Montgomery is someone we are always skeptical about. And this is something I did not think I would go ahead and say out in public, but go ahead and buy David Montgomery. He reminds me of like a LeGarrette Blunt on the Patriots, someone who's just gonna get like 15 touchdowns. Jamal Williams last year on the Lions. It's like it seems like David Montgomery is going to be the beneficial product of that really nice Lions offense. He's gonna get all the treats with those touchdowns. So I say you should go ahead and buy David Montgomery. He is a solid running back too at the moment. I think Jahmyr Gibbs clearly has his role set where he's going to be the pass catching back. And even this last week, the way he was being used, it was a little concerning. He didn't look too good either last week. He looked amazing week one. However, I would say go ahead and buy Montgomery.
Yeah, this one's a tough one because I don't think anyone expected David Montgomery to play the way he's playing now. My hats go off to him because I love him as a player, I love him as a person, and I love what he's doing right now on the field. And everything you said, I think, is totally accurate and completely factual. But for those reasons, I think I would sell him right now. I know things are a little shaky with the way their Lions are featuring Jahmyr Gibbs, but to draft someone, especially a running back, as high as they did, that front office, I still have trust in that front office. I think they know what they were doing. The coaching staff, they know what they're doing as well. I think they're still going to ease him into the offense, but at a certain point, he will take over. And I think that right now is probably the highest value Montgomery has had. And he is an injury prone back. We saw it. I think like last week he suffered a couple injuries. Still played most of the game so far. Only been 4 games, but I think right now you can couple him. If you trade him, you can definitely get a high value wide receiver. Maybe a wide receiver one, and a flex option as well, depending on the needs of other managers, considering the scarceness of running backs right now. So I would go ahead and sell Montgomery actually.
Interesting. And that's why, fantasy football is so interesting because people can have such differing perspectives. But moving on to someone who could potentially lose you your fantasy football league this season because you drafted him in the second round, Calvin Ridley. Um, this is an opportunity for managers to make the right prediction, get ahead of the curve, and either buy or sell Calvin Ridley before the damage is done, whether he goes off or whether he retains his value or whether he falls off. Because in the next 2 weeks, we're gonna find out. The next 2 weeks are gonna be critical for Calvin Ridley. So, Major Corona, I have to ask you right now, knowing what you know, are you buying or selling or holding Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, Calvin's another tough one because of where people were drafting him and what they expected to see. And with Trevor Lawrence, like he's not a volume guy. He's not gonna specifically target someone like that, like Matt Stafford is doing with Puka, because he's getting Christian Kirk as many targets as Calvin Ridley is. But that being said, I still think he's the most talented receiver in that group, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to buy. Um, we could see an explosion. Calvin, now he's 5 games in. He's ranked, I think, the 37th wide receiver overall, and I feel like there's a boom coming. And I feel like you should buy it at when he's at his lowest right now after his value has dipped.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm at a fringe buy. What we know is the first 4 weeks gives us a decent sample size, and we know some facts now. We know that the offense, the Jaguars offense, that they prefer Christian Kirk against man-on-man coverage. They clearly prefer Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has been the wide receiver 11 ever since week one. And against zone coverage is where Ridley can shine. Ridley gets doubled oftentimes, and that's the issue. So we're gonna see some teams where that will be playing zone defenses in the upcoming weeks. It's gonna be critical for managers to see how Ridley is being used in these upcoming weeks. Because if he can't figure out the zone either, then there's a problem with Ridley. So I would say fringe buy, but I wouldn't be selling too much on your own team to be buying him. Moving on, we got DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 47.
Mm.
Man, this one's a tough one because DeAndre's been that guy. I've been watching him since a young kid. Always been balling out. Like, always had high regard for him as a fantasy player. He's had a couple off the field issues, injuries, and everything. He's getting up there in age as well. Lost a step a little bit, but still has one of the best hands in the league. Really high on him too, coming into the Tennessee offense with Derrick Henry in that backfield. Really thought defense would be keying in on that run game, leaving that passing attack more to be open. And Tannehill's more than serviceable quarterback. No one's saying he's a game breaker, but he can definitely manage a game pretty well. So I had some high hopes, but man, seeing these last couple of weeks, the target share is declining and declining. Week one was great. Was targeted about 7 times, which is 13 times actually, which is pretty great. But after that, it was 5, 7, and 6 respectively. I'm not really too pleased with what I'm seeing from the Titans offense. Their defense is playing fantastic, but the passing game isn't doing too well. The running game is a little awkward right now with the split carries between Spears and Henry as well. So the offense just looks kind of in a flux. I would go ahead and sell DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not too pleased with what I'm seeing.
And yeah, I completely agree with you. I think I'm ready to sell him. Like you said, the target share has been decreasing, and he's not producing the numbers. The Titans offense, like Ryan Tannehill, yeah, he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's going to be the target guy for DeAndre Hopkins. Um, Talent, obviously, he'll have the talent. It's just you need opportunity in fantasy football, and how can you like shy away from a guy like Derrick Henry when you can use him right then and there? So, I think D Hop is sell for me.
Okay. The next guy, Manager FanDuel, is quite high on. We got DeAndre Swift. Now, well, why are you high on him, Manager FanDuel?
Listen, first off, I always love a guy with a chip on his shoulder. Something to prove. Backed into the corner. The world's against him. He wants to prove all the doubters wrong, and that's exactly what happened first and foremost with the way he was dealt out of Detroit. He wasn't utilized properly. Detroit didn't really understand his talent and what he had to bring to the table. Granted, there were some injuries that were at play as well, so there was a multitude of factors, but things just weren't really working out in Detroit. He's come here and he's rejuvenated his career. He's a local Pennsylvania, Philadelphia kid from the region, playing behind the best offensive line with some potential Hall of Famers, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. I mean, these guys have been doing it for almost a decade plus, and they know what they're doing. And they these guys, this offensive line itself isn't amongst boys. I mean, so when you put anyone behind that line, they're going to produce. But when you put someone like DeAndre Swift behind that line with the sheer athleticism and talent that he possesses, coupled with the great pocket awareness by Jalen Hurts and the great wide receivers on the outside, teams can't load up the box, so they can't double as well because you got to worry about the AJ Brown or Devontae. I'm loving everything I'm seeing from Swift. I think he's going to keep producing.
I couldn't agree with you more, Manager FanDuel. I think DeAndre Swift has to be my buy of the week. I think this guy is just took a step up. He had so many questions coming into this year. Split backfield in the Eagles. Is he the same guy? He got dealt. Lions don't believe in him, you know? He's clearly proven them wrong. The last 3 games, he's had 58 carries, and he's been playing phenomenal from a fantasy perspective. 27 points, 15 points, 18 points. And you know what my favorite part about this is? He got all these points without too much pass catching volume. That's what I'm loving. He only had eight catches between those 3 games. So, we all know that DeAndre Swift has the ability to increase his pass catching volume, and he's a threat. Hopefully, Jalen Hurts does feed him, but if you have the opportunity to buy DeAndre Swift, go and do it right now. The last guy we're gonna discuss about is Damian Pierce. He is currently the running back 27. Slightly disappointing. What do you think, Rona?
Yeah, he's not off to too hot of a start. Considering that the Texans were a surprise offensively on how well they've been doing with that passing attack with C.J. Stroud. Yeah, I think he surprised a lot of people. Um, I'm not just saying this because I traded for him, but I do think he's a good buy right now, especially at this low. You can practically get him for something even cheaper. Um, and I think he's a good pure runner. That's my only thing. And with that Texans offense, they're gonna have opportunity to score, which means Damian Pierce will have that opportunity as well. Who else is rivaling him there? Like I don't really care about Devin Singletary. So I'm liking the buy here.
As you recently just did this morning, you
Mm-hmm.
bought Damian Pierce in our league, FLM. I have to agree with you mainly because of CJ Stroud. He is the bright spot in that offense, and that tells me that the Texans offense will be scoring a little more, which will give Damian Pierce more opportunities to get in the end zone. We know he's talented, but I think it was that Houston Texans offense holding him back.
Mm-hmm.
With CJ Stroud developing, as that offense develops, as Nico Collins and CJ Stroud build that connection, get them down the field, we're going to see Damian Pierce more often at the 1 yard line, at the 3 yard line, getting some of those touchdowns. So I'd go ahead and buy Damian Pierce, especially if the manager holding him is a little underwhelmed at the moment. And that's going to wrap it up. We discussed 8 different players today, and whether we would buy, hold, or sell. Hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, thank you.
Peace.